Hi everyone, so I'm back with another toddler lesson, again for a new week. So this week I'm going to do Jonah, which would be in the Bible if you're following along in the Old Testament, Jonah 1 through 4. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to do snack first, because I find with my kids that if they're eating their snack while I'm reading, they are way more likely to pay attention and they get way more out of it and they sit still. So for our snack this week, goldfish crackers, because obviously a fish and Jonah. So I will jump right into the Bible story. Just to reiterate what I said last week, I'm going through a book called Play Through the Bible, using as my guide through these videos, and a reading out of the Jesus Storybook Bible. God had a job for Jonah, but Jonah didn't want it. "Go to Nineveh," God said, "and tell your worst enemies that I love them." "No," said Jonah, "those are bad people doing bad things." "Exactly," said God. "They have run away from me, but I can't stop loving them. I will give them a new start. I will forgive them." "No," said Jonah, "they don't deserve it." "I'll run away," Jonah said to himself, "far away, that God won't be able to find me. Then I won't have to do what God says. It's a good plan," he said, because as far as he knew, it was a good plan. But of course, it wasn't a good plan at all. It was a silly plan, because you can't run away from God. He will always come and find you. Jonah went ahead with his not very good plan. "One ticket to not Nineveh, please," he said, and boarded a boat sailing in the very opposite direction of Nineveh. Well, it wasn't long before a fierce wind blew and the boat started to lurch, pitch, and roll. Everyone started turning green. Jonah sat bolt upright in his bed. You see, the first thing that went wrong with Jonah's not very good plan was that God sent a big storm after him. The sailors couldn't sail their ship properly. "We're sinking!" they screamed and started throwing everything overboard, suitcases, food, whatever they could find. By now, Jonah knew that the storm was his fault. "Throw me in instead," he shouted to the sailors, "and the storm will stop." The sailors weren't sure. "It's the only way you can be saved," Jonah cried. So 1, 2, 3. Splash! No sooner had Jonah hit the water than the waves grew calm, the wind died down, and the storm stopped. Just then, when Jonah thought it was all over, when he was sure he was going to drown, God sent a big fish to rescue him. The fish swallowed Jonah whole with one big gulp. There's the fish coming to get Jonah. Jonah must have thought he died. It was so dark in there, like a tomb. But then he smelled the rotting food and felt the slimy seaweed, and he knew he wasn't dead. He was in the belly of the fish, sitting there in the darkness for 3 whole days. Jonah had plenty of time to think. Pretty soon he realized his plan was a very silly plan indeed. He was sorry for running away. He prayed to God from inside the great fish and asked God to forgive him. Here he is in the smelly fish. Ugh. After 3 days, the fish spat Jonah safely out onto a sandy beach. Just then, Jonah heard someone calling his name. "Go to Nineveh," God said. And this time, Jonah said yes. He went straight to Nineveh and told everyone God's wonderful message. "Even though you've run far from God, He can't stop loving you," Jonah told them. "Run to Him so He can forgive you." The people of Nineveh listened to Jonah and they started loving God. They learned to do what God said and to stop running away from Him, just like Jonah. Many years later, God was going to send another messenger with the same wonderful message. Like Jonah, he would spend 3 days in utter darkness, but this messenger would be God's own son. He would be called the Word because he himself would be God's message. God's message translated into our own language. Everything God wanted to say to the whole world in a person. Fish spit Jonah right back out. So, where did God tell Jonah to go? He told him to go to Nineveh. But what did Jonah do? He ran away. His silly plan. So, then what happened? The fish came and swallowed Jonah right up. He was in the belly of the fish for 3 days. After that, what did Jonah do? Jonah decided to be obedient and listen to God, and he went to Nineveh. So, we have 2 big points for this lesson too, just like last week. The first point is that Jonah didn't listen to God. And there's a lot of times we don't listen either. We don't listen to our moms and dads, and we don't listen to God either very well. But that's where point number 2 comes in. Point number 2 is God had mercy on Jonah and on Nineveh because they both asked for forgiveness and decided to listen, just like we can. So if you would like to use a memory verse for your older kids, a good one would be Jonah 4:2. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love. That's Jonah 4:2. If you have younger kids and you want to do an activity to go along with Jonah, similar again to last week, you can use your handy dandy laundry basket again. You can put it on the floor and the kids can sit in it and pretend to be a boat, rock the boat, and they can jump out. And then for a craft, super simple, just take a little paper plate, paint it with all your blue paint, and you can cut out a triangle section, and then you glue or tape your triangle onto the other side, add a little googly eye, or you can color it in, draw a little sad stick figure for Jonah in the belly of the fish, just as a good reminder for little kids of the fish and Jonah inside. Make sure it's a sad face because he was remorseful. So, I hope you enjoyed this video and had fun doing the crafts and the activities. And if you do them, please take pictures and post them in our comments so that we can see that you're following along and you're having fun at home. And if you have any requests for different stories, let me know. But see you next week. Have fun.